Hello and welcome back to Nerd Doc. This video explains the ending and major plot details of The Pale Blue Eye, the newly released Netflix film starring Christian Bale. That means there are spoilers for The Pale Blue Eye in this video. We'll also cover some of the historical facts about the film, and there are chapter timestamps below so you can jump around the video as you wish. If you have any questions we did not cover here, or have your own thoughts about the film, feel free to leave a comment below. The main characters in The Pale Blue Eye are Detective Augustus Landor, military cadet Edgar Allan Poe, yes, the famous poet, the Marquis family, Dr. Daniel Marquis, his wife Julia, and their children Leah and Artemis, as well as Artemis's friends, cadets Randolph Ballinger, Julia Stoddard, and Leroy Fry. Landor is called out to West Point Military Academy due to a gruesome murder that happened the night before. A cadet was hung, then his heart was cut out of his chest. Landor begrudgingly takes the case and meets up with Dr. Marquis for an autopsy report. Landor also discovers that there's a torn piece of a handwritten note in the clenched fist of the victim. Over the next month or so, another cadet and some wildlife are also found hanged with their hearts removed. During this time, Landor enlists the aid of eager young cadet Edgar Allan Poe to assist him in hunting down the killer. This is in part due to Poe's eagerness, but also because Landor needs someone on the inside who has a better understanding of the military academy and the cadets who study there. Poe can get information and mingle with the other cadets far more easily than Landor. In addition, Poe is in need of a father figure and mentor, and while not his initial intention, that's what Landor eventually became. Poe was younger than the other cadets, didn't fit in well given his morbid style of poetry and general demeanor, and had a peculiar look about him that didn't win him many friends. Taking from Edgar Allan Poe's real life, he also never truly had a family, spending most of his younger years with a foster family of sorts, regularly at odds with his pseudo-foster father, John Allan, and his family. Therefore, Landor created a wonderful opportunity for Poe to finally have a proper father figure. Over the course of the film, Poe and Landor bonded, and Poe became infatuated with Leah Marquis. He was successful in courting her, but that actually worked against him by the end of the film. Eventually, Landor and Poe discover that most of the Marquis family deals in witchcraft and sorcery. Leah Marquis suffers from frequent seizures, and at one point was given only 3 months to live. Her father's medical knowledge could not help her, so she turned to the supernatural. Father Henri Leclerc, Leah's great-great-grandfather, was a witch hunter and devil worshipper who had dealings within the occult, and Leah claimed that he spoke to her, telling her to use the hearts in a ritual that would free her from the seizures. As The Pale Blue Eye comes to an end, quite a bit is revealed about the Marquis family and Augustus Landor. While Leah and Artemis Marquis did cut out the heart of Cadet Fry, they didn't actually kill him as he was already dead. Leah's seduction of Poe and the potential removal of his heart would have been the first time the Marquis siblings killed anyone. Leah lured Poe in and drugged him, while Artemis, who would do anything to help his sister, assisted with tying up Poe and preparing the satanic ritual. Landor ends up saving the day, rescuing Poe and Julia Marquis, while Leah and Artemis perished in a fire that started as Landor interrupted the ritual. Poe's wrist had already been cut in order to drain his blood and create the ritual circle, but he was able to make a full recovery. After recovering, Poe compares the handwriting from the note in the first victim's hand to a note that Landor had written him, and discovers they were very likely written by the same person. Poe confronts Landor in his home, which is when the real story of the killer is finally revealed. 2 years ago, Landor's daughter Maddie went to the academy ball. On her way home, she was assaulted and raped by 3 cadets. Maddie managed to grab the necklace from one of the cadets, which had the initials LF for Leroy Fry. Landor's daughter never fully recovered from the encounter. Maddie's mental health continued to deteriorate until she eventually committed suicide. This ate away at Landor, who had lost his wife shortly before the incident. Alone and grieving, he finally succumbed to the grief and devised a plan to lure out Leroy Fry by writing him a note asking for a meeting with who Fry thought was Patsy the barkeep, simply providing him with more alcohol as she had done in the past. Landor ambushed Fry, vigorously interrogating him to get the name of the other 2 individuals, but Fry only gave up Julia Stoddard, then Landor strung him up in the closest tree, killing him. The hanging was interrupted by a passing patrol, causing Landor to leave the body. The patrol ran off to inform others of his discovery when Leah and Artemis came across the body and decided to use it for the ritual, cutting out his heart. This gave Landor a scapegoat, so he killed some wildlife in the same manner to make it all seem connected and remove any potential suspicion from himself. At Fry's funeral, Landor was given Fry's diary, which Ballinger promptly mailed to Fry's mother in Kentucky as soon as he found out about Fry's death. This was because Ballinger knew that encoded in that diary were the details of Maddie's rape and his involvement in it, so he wanted it as far away from the crime scene as he could get it, even encouraging Fry's mother to burn it. While the writing in the diary looked like gibberish to the common eye, it was actually written sideways in pencil lead, with additional numbers and characters written in the normal left-to-right format in ink. To decode the diary, Landor used an alcoholic mixture to remove the ink, while leaving the pencil lead and the paper completely intact. In addition to Landor's suspicions of Ballinger due to the curious action of mailing the diary, the details within the diary confirmed his involvement in the assault on Landor's daughter. Therefore, Landor eventually killed Ballinger, but once again mimicked the satanic ritual by removing his heart so that it would align with the other deaths, connecting everything together. Landor received all the information he needed about the removal of the heart thanks to his conversation with the doctor near the beginning of the movie. This is also the reason why the removal of Ballinger's heart was sloppier than Fry's. Unfortunately for Landor, Julius Studdard was keenly aware of the fact that his co-conspirators were being killed off one by one, so he fled the academy to avoid death. Landor knows what he did, and he did a few things intentionally for very specific reasons. For instance, he made no attempt to rescue Leah or Artemis from the fire because they could have thrown suspicion on the murders since they didn't actually kill anyone. Landor first saved Poe, then Julia Marquis, while making no effort to save Leah or Artemis, not even yelling at them to move. In addition, while Landor felt he had to kill those cadets to avenge his daughter, he is still at least somewhat a man of honor. While rules are not his favorite, he intentionally allowed Poe to keep both the handwritten note from Fry's dead hand, as well as the handwritten note Landor had given Poe. It was Landor's intention that Poe would figure everything out and bring him to justice. Not only did Landor leave Poe both notes, but earlier in the film, he had Poe analyze the handwriting of the note from Fry's hand. Landor already knew what the note said. He was the one who actually wrote it. He wanted Poe to analyze the handwriting so that he would eventually realize that it was Landor's own handwriting on that note, which would be his first clue in piecing together the true killer. Poe then had a choice to make: turn in Landor, avenging his lost Leah, who he planned to marry and start a family with, or side with his new father figure and mentor, who was grieving the loss of his daughter and thus took the law into his own hands. Poe sides with Landor partially due to their deepened relationship, and partially because while Leah didn't kill anyone, she was ready to kill Poe, and Landor didn't directly kill her, even if she would have spent her life in jail or hanged for being pinned with the murders. Once free, Landor then takes Maddie's ribbon and drops it off the cliff where she died, as a final message to Maddie and himself that she had been avenged and could now rest in peace. While The Pale Blue Eye is a fictional tale, there is a small bit of historical fact in the film. Edgar Allan Poe did go to West Point Academy in 1830, although he had already been married once and he was intentionally court-martialed after only 6 months. Augustus Landor is an entirely fictional character, but his name was derived from Auguste Dupin, a detective in Poe's stories The Murders in the Rue Morgue and The Purloined Letter, with his last name hailing from the title of Poe's short story Landor's Cottage. And finally, the title of the movie is a famous line from Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart. Everything else about the film was entirely fictional. So what did you think of The Pale Blue Eye? Did you figure out who the killer was before the end of the movie, and should Poe have turned Landor in? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. For now, that wraps up this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who loves Edgar Allan Poe.